The most dedicated gardeners often grow the weakest plants. That daily watering ritual you believe shows love for your garden is actually teaching your plants to be helpless. Their roots stay shallow, desperate, and entirely dependent on you. What if the secret to a thriving garden is doing less? Today, I'm going to show you why the laziest approach might be the smartest one you will ever try. Welcome to Secrets Beneath Nature. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment below telling me how often you currently water your plants. I read every single one, and your answer might surprise you by the end of this video. Let me paint a picture you might recognize. A gardener stands in their backyard every single morning, hose in hand, faithfully misting each plant like clockwork. They genuinely care. They set phone reminders. They worry when they miss a day. And yet their tomato plants collapse at the first heat wave, while their neighbor, who waters maybe twice a week, has plants that look like they belong in a magazine. This is not bad luck. This is biology working exactly as it should. Here is the uncomfortable truth. A 2023 survey from the National Gardening Association found that overwatering ranks as the #1 cause of plant death in home gardens across North America. More plants die from too much love than from neglect. When you pull up a plant that has been watered every day, look at its roots. They spread outward in a shallow web, hugging the top few inches of soil like a security blanket. These roots never learned to dig deep because they never needed to. Think about it this way. Imagine someone delivers food to your door every single morning. Fresh meals right on your doorstep without fail. Would you ever learn where the grocery store is? Would you know how to find food if that delivery stopped? Your plants face the same situation. When water arrives at the surface every day, roots have zero motivation to explore deeper. Now let me take you underground where the real magic happens. Roots are not passive straws that simply absorb whatever they touch. They are active explorers equipped with sophisticated sensing abilities. Scientists call this behavior hydrotropism. A team led by researcher Graham Bengow published findings in the Journal of Experimental Botany in 2011 showing that roots actively grow toward water sources. They can detect moisture gradients and navigate through soil to find it. Picture a cross-section of soil after you water deeply but infrequently. Water percolates downward, pulled by gravity, settling 12 to 18 inches below the surface. The top few inches dry out first, baking in the sun, but down below, moisture lingers for days. When roots sense this gradient, when they detect dryness above and dampness below, they do exactly what evolution designed them to do. They grow downward. Research from the University of California, Davis, led by Louise Comas and her team, documented something remarkable in 2013. Plants subjected to moderate drought stress-developed root systems 15 to 40% deeper than plants receiving constant irrigation. Let that sink in. The stressed plants did not just survive. They built superior infrastructure. Their roots became explorers while the coddled plants remained dependent. Your plant has an internal alarm system that makes this possible. Deep within the roots, cells produce a hormone called abscisic acid. When they detect drying soil, this chemical messenger travels upward through the plant and triggers a cascade of adaptive responses. Leaves partially close their stomata to conserve water, and growth energy redirects away from shoots and toward roots. The entire plant shifts into what scientists call resource acquisition mode. Françoise Tardieu and her colleagues at the French National Institute for Agricultural Research spent decades studying this signaling system. Their 2018 review in the Annual Review of Plant Biology describes how plants that experience periodic mild stress develop what they call drought memory. These plants respond faster and more efficiently to future dry periods. They have essentially trained their internal systems to handle adversity. Think of it like strength training for your muscles. Nobody builds strength by lifting feathers every day. Muscles need resistance. They need controlled stress that triggers adaptation. When you rest between workouts, your muscles rebuild stronger. Plants work the same way. That period when the soil dries out is not punishment. It is the resistance training that builds resilience. Now here is where this moves from a garden experiment to an agricultural revolution. Farmers across the Mediterranean and in water-scarce regions around the world have been quietly using these principles for decades. They call it deficit irrigation. A landmark study published in the Journal of Experimental Botany in 2007 by Elias Ferreras and Maria Auxiliadora Soriano analyzed farms throughout Spain, Italy, Greece, and North Africa. The results changed everything we thought we knew about irrigation. These farmers deliberately provided only 60 to 70% of the water that traditional guidelines recommended. Instead of panicking, their crops thrived. Water usage dropped by 20 to 40%, while yields remained equal or actually improved. Some crops produced better quality harvests than fully irrigated fields. Vineyard managers in California and France now intentionally stress their grapevines, producing smaller berries with more concentrated flavors that make exceptional wine. Stephanie Geertz and Dirk Race published a comprehensive meta-analysis in Agricultural Water Management in 2009, examining deficit irrigation across dozens of crops and climates. The pattern held consistent. Moderate, controlled water stress, applied strategically, produced healthier and often more productive plants. Olives, almonds, citrus, tomatoes, and peppers. The list goes on. The lazy approach, as it turns out, has serious scientific backing. So how do you actually apply this in your own backyard? The technique is simpler than daily watering, which is the beautiful irony. Instead of giving your plants a little sip every day, give them a deep drink less often. When you water, soak the soil to a depth of 6 to 8 inches. Really saturate it. Then walk away. Wait until the top 2 to 3 inches of soil feel dry before watering again. Test this by pushing your finger into the ground. Some gardeners prefer a moisture meter for precision, but your finger works perfectly well. The goal is letting that top layer dry while moisture remains available deep below. This creates the gradient that sends roots searching downward. Water early in the morning when possible. This reduces evaporation during peak heat and gives foliage time to dry before evening, which helps prevent fungal problems. A 2019 study from Texas A&M found that morning irrigation delivered 30% more water to root zones compared to midday watering under similar conditions. Mulch becomes your secret weapon in this approach. A layer of wood chips, straw, or shredded leaves spread 3 to 4 inches deep around your plants dramatically reduces surface evaporation. Research from the University of Florida Extension Program documented that proper mulching cuts watering needs by 25 to 50%. The soil underneath stays cool and moist while the surface bakes in the sun. This extends the time between waterings and enhances the moisture gradient roots love. Pay attention to your soil type because it matters. Sandy soil drains quickly, so you might water more frequently, but still deeply. Clay soil holds moisture longer, meaning you wait more days between waterings. A raised bed in Phoenix will need different timing than a clay garden in Portland. This is not about rigid schedules. It is about observation. Learn to read your plants. A slightly droopy leaf in afternoon heat does not mean immediate emergency. Many plants naturally reduce their surface area during hot afternoons and perk up by evening. True water stress shows as leaves that stay wilted into cooler hours, as color changes, as curling that persists. Once you recognize the difference, you stop panic watering. Here is what to expect during the transition. If your plants have been receiving daily water for months or years, they now have weak, shallow root systems. When you suddenly switch to deep, infrequent watering, they will look stressed. Leaves might droop. Growth might slow. This is not the method failing. This is the adaptation beginning. Picture roots suddenly discovering that their reliable surface moisture is gone. At first, they struggle. Then they start growing downward, searching for the deeper water you have provided. This transition typically takes 2 to 4 weeks for established plants. Be patient. Be consistent. Trust the process that millions of years of evolution have refined. One important exception exists. Seedlings and newly transplanted plants have not yet developed robust root systems. They need consistent surface moisture until they establish themselves, usually 3 to 4 weeks after transplanting. Once they show new growth and seem firmly rooted, gradually transition them to the deep watering method. Think of it as infant care versus adult care. Different life stages require different approaches. Now zoom out with me for a moment, because this technique connects to something much larger than your backyard. Climate data from the past decade shows increasingly unpredictable precipitation patterns across virtually every continent. Droughts last longer, heat waves intensify. The plants that survive these extremes are plants with deep, resilient root systems. A garden filled with shallow-rooted plants that depend on daily irrigation becomes an enormous vulnerability. When you travel, when water restrictions hit, when drought arrives, those plants have no reserves. Gardens trained through strategic water stress develop what ecologists call drought tolerance. These plants tap moisture reserves other plants cannot reach. They survive heat events that kill their shallow-rooted neighbors. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that outdoor irrigation accounts for nearly 30% of household water use in the United States. During summer months in western states, that number climbs to 50 or 60%. Every gardener who adopts efficient watering practices contributes to collective water conservation. Multiply that across millions of gardens, and the impact becomes significant. There is something philosophically satisfying about this approach too. We live in a culture that often equates more effort with better results. More watering, more fertilizing, more intervention. But the natural world has spent roughly 400 million years optimizing plant responses to environmental stress. Our job is not to override those systems with constant coddling. Our job is to trigger them appropriately and then step back. The lazy method is actually the wise method. It requires faith in processes older and more refined than anything humans have invented. It requires observation over rigid schedules and patience over panic. It means trusting that the slight stress you see today builds the strength you need tomorrow. I have watched gardens transform using these principles. Plants that once wilted at the first sign of heat now stand firm through summer afternoons. Water bills drop. Time spent with hoses decreases, and the deep satisfaction of growing truly resilient plants replaces the anxiety of constant caretaking. Your plants do not need more of your attention. They need the right kind of attention, given at the right intervals, in the right amounts. Sometimes the most profound care looks like stepping away. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your garden is put down the hose, trust the science, and let your roots go searching for exactly what they need. Start this week. Water deeply one time and then wait. Watch your plants. Check that soil with your finger. Observe what happens over days instead of hours. You might be surprised how little your garden actually needs from you and how much stronger it grows because of it.